the fact that you're willing to give us money right now gives us validation that this is a real problem that you're facing. Otherwise, if you don't do it, then you're actually doing us a favor because we go on and do the next thing. We don't want to waste our time on a problem that doesn't exist.
Kosh, for those who don't know, how would you introduce yourself and why do you think people should really care about the work that you do?
Yeah, so I'm Akash, co-founder and CEO of Vellum. We just announced our Series A. We're a Y Combinator backed startup. We started our company in early 2023. And why should people care about what we do? Well, if you're trying to build agents or document extraction pipelines or chatbots, basically any application that uses LLMs for production purposes, then you need the tooling that we provide. We provide a full set of tooling for orchestration, evals, monitoring, both for technical and non-technical stakeholders.
What I found interesting about your background was that you used to work at McKinsey, correct, for about 5 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to ask you originally about why you kind of started this whole thing. And I know something that you mentioned was the fact that there was a drive to make something else bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
So I was curious as to why, out of post grad, you went into more of like a hardcore, I don't want to say cushy, it's definitely not a cushy job, right? But it's very much corporate, I should say, as
Yeah.
opposed to like jumping right into like an entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah. Let's see. Like rolling back the years when I graduated from college, I wasn't at the time I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I thought that getting started at McKinsey would be a safe, no-brainer opportunity because I'd just be getting fantastic exposure to different companies, different problems, learning from other people who've done this before. So that all proved to be true. I actually intentionally stayed in the software like TMT practice, tech, media, and telecom, and I worked with companies of different sizes across different functional areas. So I did pricing, strategy, internal operations, HR, sales, and marketing, just like a random walk across different functions within that industry to best learn how to like just run businesses in the future. But then after a point when I was moving up the ladder out there, I realized that the work that we actually do doesn't add that much, like all that much value to our customers. And I had the itch to start something of my own. And from corporate, as you rightly pointed out, from corporate world, I didn't know how to actually get started. So I decided to join a startup, which was my crawl, walk, run approach before I actually started a startup. And there was also a point where I was deciding whether I wanted to do the startup in the US or move back home to India. I can go into that if you're curious.
Yeah, why did you choose the US?
Yeah. So I'm a first generation immigrant, grew up in India, did high school there. Life's great out there. I can always go back and do just fine there. But when I was making a decision on whether I want to stay here or go back, there was something about Silicon Valley, obviously, that was drawing me to it. And being in the US gives you an opportunity to create a global company, truly global company. And today that's proven true because we have customers all in all continents. We have a lot of enterprise pull from customers in different countries. And being you truly get the chance to be a market leader in any category when you're based in the US. It just gives you an unfair advantage for capital distribution, talent, everything.
Right, but you make this sound so easy. And yet you took the right approach I think a lot of people don't take, which is you first sold a product, right? Before you really built anything out. How did you know that was like the right strategy? And like, especially for something as intimidating as like AI, how did you know that you would be able to deliver on whatever promise it was, or was it just all discovery?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So we actually didn't start out that way exactly. We started building the product first, but then our YC group partners gave us fantastic advice that we need to sell the product before we build it, to truly validate whether it was a real pain point that we're solving or not. And the way we came up with this idea or this specific problem to work on is because me and my co-founders were building applications using LLMs. So we used GPT-3, GPT 3.5, Claude 1 before Claude 2 came out, all well before ChatGPT, and experienced the very same pain points that our customers experience today. Like our prompts hallucinating, the same prompt was giving different results over time, same prompt to different responses across models. And back then, those were just easier, like single prompt architectures. Now things have gotten so much more complicated. And my co-founders also had experience in the ML ops industry. So they knew how to train and deploy ML models. And we knew that something similar would exist in the for LLMs because when ChatGPT became mainstream, it was in top of mind for developers and just users all over the world that they wanted more magical AI experiences. So we knew that this is a new market category that's getting created in front of us. We've experienced this pain point. We also built some internal tooling to make our own lives easier. And the problem space seemed like very clear. So what we did was we spoke to about 60 or 80 different users. These were people who were, we found through different walks of life. These were old colleagues, these were YC batchmates, these are just cold outbounds that we sent to people on LinkedIn or email. So we did about 80 different user interviews and just tried to understand what their top problems were. Generally in this space, generally in the AI development space. And when we finished up those first round of interviews, we came up with a product spec, like a PRD of what our MVP looks like. We said that our product will do three things. It'll help with prompting, it'll help with evals, it'll help with monitoring. It's kind of like a very simple spec of how it would do those things. And then we went back to our customers, or not necessarily customers, but the users who were the most excited or who resonated most deeply with this problem. We went back to them and said that, hey, this is what we're thinking about building. Are you interested in buying it? They were like, how can we buy this? This is crazy. This product doesn't even exist. Then we were like, well, we need to validate that this is an actual problem for you. We actually don't care about the money, but the fact that you would give us any money right now, and we will return it to you if it doesn't work or if it's not a useful, like if it doesn't actually solve your problem. But the fact that you're willing to give us money right now gives us validation that this is a real problem that you're facing. Otherwise, if you don't do it, then you're actually doing us a favor because we go on and do the next thing. We don't want to waste our time on a problem that doesn't exist. So that like reverse psyche ninja move actually helped a lot because those people who resonated deeply with the problem, they're like, no, 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 here, take my money. I don't want to actually not have this problem solved. Go do something, and then if it doesn't work, you can pay me back. So that ended up working well.
Talk to me more about that process though, right? Because I see like you lighting up and you're talking about like the process and everything that you went through, but of course everything is super simplified, and that's kind of like the nature of what happens when you talk about things, right? But the customer discovery part, something I struggle with even in sales or seeing what founders really lack in, is just being able to talk to a customer and being able to put your foot through the front door to begin with. So you say you did a lot of cold email. You said you did a lot of cold LinkedIn DMing, but what were the intricacies of that? Like, were you really just calling out a problem? Was it a subject that you were using? Was it some kind of like body text? Like, how were you able to even get your foot in the door with 100 people within?
Yeah.
You probably launched within 3 to 6
So
months, right?
oh yeah, we launched within like 3 weeks of getting the idea. So it was very
Super
fast.
fast,
It was
yeah.
a big sprint. It was a big sprint. So of our 80 or so initial user interviews, these are not customers. We have no product, we have no code written, nothing. But of our 80 or so initial user interviews were probably I would break it down into four buckets. So one is people in the current YC batch. So that was much easier. Like they were just friends, we would just talk to them and they would happily share their problems with us for 15-20 minutes. Then the second bucket, like progressively more difficult, was for more coworkers, like people who we've worked with in different jobs or doing something similar to AI today. And that was also relatively easy because they just wanted to do us a favor. And at the time, we were just saying that, hey, we're trying to start a company. We really want to understand how you go about doing your work. And there was the hook basically was we want to understand how you solve this problem today for yourselves and just take 15-20 minutes of your time. There was no asks there. And it was mostly a favor that, hey, help us out as we're getting started. The third bucket was companies from prior YC batches. So we reached out to old YC founders and we were just saying that, hey, we're like validating our idea. And this is something that those folks resonated with a lot. So a lot of them actually hopped on. Maybe 20% of them hopped onto a call. That was good conversion. And the true cold LinkedIn outbound, success rate was much lower. But again, the hook there was we just got into YC. We are looking to solve an idea in the space. Our background is McKinsey, MIT. We've solved this problem before. Would just love to learn how you do your work today. And at the end of it, it's a numbers game. So we just reached out to enough people and made it sound like made the outreach sound like, hey, they're doing us a favor by talking to us because they truly were. They were truly trying to. No, they must have felt that they actually helped us out, which they
It
did.
seems like there's this big emphasis on YC and like how it like really contributed to your success because you give me 2 points of really being with like the identity as well as like the people within like batches, previous batches and current batches. Do you think if you're building within the AI space today, if you don't have that YC label, you're at like a significant disadvantage? Or how would you kind of restart if you didn't have YC? What approach would you take?
Okay, YC was incredibly helpful for us in these two phases, right? So phase one was getting started, idea validation, like the things that I was telling you about, and also the advice that we got from our group partner along the way, and also during fundraising at the end. But that doesn't mean that not having YC doesn't like means that it's like doomed to start. I think step one is easier. Step two is more difficult if you especially don't have a network in Silicon Valley. Step one is like idea validation. There's enough content out there on how you validate a startup idea, how you get your first few paying customers, and like that can be figured out even without any like YC brand. But getting investors to back your first idea is really hard if you're not an insider in the valley. So that was quite helpful for us as we wrapped up with our batch, for sure.
So, you know, you just raised your Series A, and on the topic of like investment, how did that feel when you finally had, was it $20 million?
Mhm.
What has funding been the main driver of? Like, is it more of like developing an engineering team?
Yeah, we're going after a large global and relatively open white space market, right? So we need to get the best possible product out there in front of as many people as possible. And there's probably three different buckets I would think of. One is the core product itself. So there's an orchestration layer, there's an evals layer, there's a monitoring layer. There's so many features we're trying to build to make it better because we like the path is so clear because all customers basically are asking for the same thing. So we just need to build more of it and build it as quickly as possible. Second is onboarding. So we recently moved from a request demo sales-led motion to a product-led motion. So we're trying to get people onboarded into the product effectively. So there's a whole new growth onboarding related set of product initiatives that we'll be working on for activation moment, retention, those kinds of classic PLG metrics to optimize for. And last is just sales and marketing. There's ample sales and marketing activities that we can and should be doing. So funding will help accelerate all of these, all in the service of just helping more companies get their AI products to market faster, because we know they're all facing the same problem.
Where do you stand on this debate right now with AI startups popping up and saying like distribution is more important than anything? Building is so easy now and like everyone can like ship, ship, ship. So distribution is the most important out of anything. How do you stand on
This
that?
is not, I think if you even putting aside the general new AI hype or sentiment of distribution being so important, I remember a quote from like 3 years ago, or something, where this is well before AI hype, where they were saying that first time founders think about product, second time founders think about distribution. Distribution is always and will always remain important, probably more important than product. I think what's changed in the dialogue right now, in the discourse right now, is that AI makes it so much easier to ship new products. But what I will say is that for more complex or more advanced products, there's still value in like product differentiation.
Mm.
So in our case, we're actually trying to change how people are doing their software development. And not just by like adding on to their existing IDE setup or something, but truly changing how it's a new software development lifecycle that we're trying to champion with our customers. That requires a lot of product to be built. We're also powering like billions of like tokens or billions of requests per month. So there's a lot of volume and traffic we're dealing with that has infra implications. So there's a lot of product that we still need to build. But you're right, distribution still remains more important. It's not like we won't be replaced by some lovable type competitor, for instance, because there the product layer is so thin.
My understanding of Vellum is like it's the Canva of being able to create like LLMs, right? It helps developers like freely drag and drop, understand where everything goes wrong. It's like this free flowing program of blocks. To me, just having that vision of like we make this easier for them is like the mission I kind of see of Vellum. But I'm surprised that you highlight the four parts of the cycle.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. So maybe we have a better job that we need to do on product marketing. But like so the way we define it is that great AI development requires tight feedback loops throughout the whole development lifecycle. So it starts with experimentation. So that's where you were talking about like the Canva visual flow builder. But when people are defining the logic of their agent or their application, they're usually iterating across different prompts, different models, parameters, retrieval techniques, orchestration techniques, like context management techniques. There's a lot of like moving parts on how to even define the application. And that can be done through UI or code. So we have a two-way sync between UI and code. There's a lot of like definition of the application that needs to be thought through, but that's tightly coupled with an evaluation suite. So that's step two of the cycle. You define and then you evaluate, because in evaluations you can run a large number of test cases across predefined metrics to optimize for quality, cost, and latency. Because a developer is ultimately trying to get a product to market reliably and quickly. So reliably is where quality comes in. So there are various metrics to think about on how you improve quality of an AI system. And it's kind of an iterative loop, because you tweak the definition, then your eval result changes. And then some test cases pass, some fail. For the ones that fail, you might modify the definition again, which might result in a different test case failing. So that loop is kind of iterative. We have some improvements planned, which can make that loop faster and faster. Then eventually, people can deploy through a staging or production environment, manage different versions, and then get monitoring of their online traffic to see which edge case, like if any edge cases show up in production, which they inevitably do. And those edge cases can then be added back to the offline test cases to further improve the definition of the application. Like it's a forever cycle, because new models keep coming out. Again, new orchestration techniques keep coming out. And we think that just a point solution approach to this problem is not sufficient, because the core pain point of developers is getting an AI product built to market quickly and reliably.
You've probably been asked this one before, but I know you've been even from like your interviews from a year ago, you were very bullish in recommending people to explore more AI models to use in their workflows and like understanding what each one specializes in and which ones aren't very capable at one thing. So, how does Vellum kind of use AI and how do you keep up to date with like knowing what each one is capable of? Do you test everything yourself? Do you look at a news source?
Yeah, we have reports coming out for different models as major models keep coming out. We have the best ranking leaderboard in the market. So if you search LM leaderboard, we should be the top ranking leaderboard there. I haven't yet tested Grok 4 to be honest with you, but Grok 4 is making a lot of news right now. So I'm excited to see like how people end up using it in production applications. But it's well documented that Claude is one of the best models for code generation. OpenAI is good for more creative writing. So and Gemini is good for document extraction. So different models are kind of tailored towards different tasks, but ultimately we are model agnostic, and that's what also we recommend to our customers, because they should be able to pick the best tool for the job, and compare to different versions to get the best possible quality, cost, and latency.
Is Vellum at the point now where like you let the customers like kind of do whatever they want? Like is it's completely self-serve, or do you have to
It's
still
completely
build proof of
self-serve.
concepts?
Vellum is completely self-serve, but we can always help. It's a very flexible platform, so we can always help customers when they're trying to build something more advanced.
That's cool because yeah, I mean, I that's some of the interviews I was listening to were about like the proof of concept that was being built out and like how you guys that was a big like selling factor at the very beginning, but I'm assuming that's not a part of the sales at all.
Yeah, nope.
Gotcha. So, what do you think about some of the things that people have been saying in terms of the integration of Vellum with other platforms?
Integrations. In what way? Like, is it just additional data sources? Like, um,
I heard things about like some of the pain points were the fact that Vellum didn't have like cloud deployment and like easily accessible like work like sharing workflows,
Yeah,
shareable
so
workflows. There you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I can touch upon some of these different points. So integrations has maybe two aspects to it. One is like how data comes in, and second is like where data is written to. And then I think the third thing you mentioned was more on collaboration. So I guess where data comes in, people right now we don't have any connectors to databases or to data warehouses. People have to manage that on their application side, and then they pass in the context to our endpoints, either our production endpoints or our evaluation endpoints, for where data is written to, like external connectors. Think HubSpot, Salesforce, Slack, Google. So all kinds of connectors out there. That is something that people have to still like build themselves. We provide some reusable components and some defaults, but we are investing in a big project to make it to have many more out-of-box connectors available. That should be rolling out in a few weeks, which I'm pretty excited about.
Hey, okay.
And the last thing is collaboration. So we already have collaboration features built inside our platform. There's always more we could be doing. We want Figma style collaboration. We want Google Drive style fine-grained permissions management. So there's more that we should be doing. We also want workspace level analytics where like an enterprise, the decision maker inside an enterprise can see what's happening across all their 50 or 100 deployed workflows, how many tokens are being used, how many errors are showing up, what business value are they getting from that. So it's just product development, right? There's always more you could be doing.
Do you think that's something that you should focus on later on in like the stage of your company?
It depends on sequencing always depends on customer demand, right? We are getting significant customer demand for these features because we have several upmarket customers who have dozens of users, if not hundreds, actively using our platform. So these features start becoming more and more acute. And that's partly why we raised a Series A right now, because again, there's so many obvious features we need to build. We know what the product is that absolutely wins this market. We just need to race towards that.
Talk to me about like the development of the idea of what you wanted to do at the very beginning. Has it stayed consistent, or do you have this like $1 million, $1 billion vision, like the
The
differences in the two?
idea has mostly remained consistent. What has changed is we did not expect that we'll do a managed vector database. So we also have a retrieval service that we offer to our customers. That's something that is definitely differentiated in our platform right now. It's very easy to set up. Second thing that has changed was we have support for multi-step applications. But back when we started with just single prompt use cases, but increasingly having first it was prompt chaining, then it was RAG, then it was chatbots, now it's agents. Like having most AI systems require multiple steps and orchestration between those steps. So those were like evolutions of the idea, but the guiding principle has always remained the same. Helping companies adopt AI in production more reliably and more quickly. And the two metrics that we care about there is like number of use cases in production, and second is time to production of every incremental use case. So as we get metric one up and metric two down, we should be in a good place.
I assume that would be difficult to track though, depending on like the size of the company, no? Or is it pretty easy because it's like different teams, it's like you accomplish what they want.
Yeah, we can track number of deployments in production. That's not that difficult to track.
Talk to me about like how you face like competition. Do you see them at all, or do you just put your head down and try your best to talk with your customers and provide the best product, or are you constantly on LinkedIn trying to see what they're up to?
There's always competition that exists. The interesting thing about our market is that there's been many waves of competitors. So different companies have been hot at different times, and then a few months later they kind of fade away. I'm not going to name names, but it has been like a pretty consistent theme, which we find kind of funny. So our goal is to just mostly stay heads down and understand what customers are looking for and build product for that. But whenever we lose deals to competition, which happens, like that obviously will happen to any company, then we like deeply reflect on why that happened and whether it makes sense to tweak our roadmap to support that. And
Mm.
obviously, like when we lose deals to ICP customers versus non-ICP customers, it means different things. So yeah, competition always shows up in the context of deals, but we don't spend that much time doing competitive research and market scans. There's enough work that needs to be done.
Is there any like advice that you got early on during your YC batch also about that like you took inspiration from, or is that something that it's just in the
Yeah,
nature of your character?
the catchy one-liner there is startups die of homicide. Startups have suicide and not homicide. So you're mostly going to die because you don't execute well enough, and then you want to kill yourself for that. No, I'm just joking. But homicide is rare in startups. It was the main advice. So we just need to focus on our customers and grow from there.
So Vellum right now is doing monthly pricing, is that right?
We have a mix. We have some customers on monthly agreements, some on annual agreements.
What do you think about like the shift? There's a big debate right now within the AI startup community about pricing when it comes to pay per result rather than like this thing where it's like a pay per seat or pay on a monthly basis. Have you ever considered what something like an intercom would do, when it comes to delivering a result?
Yeah, we've definitely considered that, but the challenge that we face is that our customers are building different kinds of use cases, and we don't know, we don't have enough information to quantify how valuable that use case is for that customer. So it would be
Mm.
highly customized pricing for different use cases that a customer might build. So we don't necessarily do that. There are some other usage-based metrics that we look at in our pricing, like amount of data emitted, amount of compute used, more like cloud provider-esque metrics, but less outcome-based metrics. Um, because sometimes customers might just want to build a simple internal automation that might not be that valuable for them. But we still make it easier to do that.
So you want to emphasize more on like being familiar with the platform and building so that they can keep returning. Is that
Yes,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then we'll charge for the resources that we provide to mostly cover our costs.
Because yeah, what I was thinking in my head is like if they were able to create an agent that they did find to be suitable for whatever the use case was, then they would pay. But of course, I'm sure there's a lot of nuances in that, like you said, with the pricing and knowing how big the project is.
And like how valuable that given agent is to that customer.
Yeah. Well, now that you're at a more mature stage, you made it past the pre-seed and the seed stage, like what do you think were kind of the things at the very beginning that you held on to and thought that you absolutely needed for the survival of the company? And in retrospect now, you're looking back and saying like that those weren't actually really important.
Yeah, in hindsight, we could have invested more. Like we could have ramped up our burn and spend earlier. That would have likely resulted in more growth in in our journey.
Spending on
Um,
what? Sorry.
Spending and like that would have resulted in more growth, like ramping up burn.
Hmm.
That
What
would have
would you be
resulted
spending in more tools, more
more headcount.
people,
I think more product.
headcount?
Back in the day, it was all product. Like we and still continues to be. Our team is still more EPD oriented. There's more engineering work that needs to happen than on the go-to-market side. So if we had built more of the product sooner, we would have been in a better place today. That's probably my one big learning. I think next time I do a startup, I will know better on how to hit the hit the gas when needed. Because one of the advice that startups always get is when you have product market fit, then you should accelerate. But then I realized that product market fit is not really a binary. It's kind of a spectrum. That was a big aha moment for me, where it takes a while for product market fit to truly hit you like a wall, like the classic things that Andreessen Horowitz, like Mark Andreessen says, and also think the up boulder rolling uphill, boulder going downhill analogy. That takes a while, but we should have ramped up burn sooner.
I want to talk to you more on that actually, on like the importance of product market fit in your head. I know you kind of proved out your point there, but with all these AI startups that are coming out that are trying to make it, I think people are discouraged that they don't get product market fit and then they end up dying out. In reality, like I feel like the game is completely changing. It's like PMF doesn't mean what it used to be. And now like you really have to just get your tool in front of people. But is there some kind of underlying definition that you would say that is consistent across whatever way you, how do I say this? Like, is there a consistent definition of PMF in today's age with like AI that you would describe to be the moment you know that you've got something?
Yeah, so I would separate this into two different discussions. One is product market fit, and one is like product go to market fit, like a channel market fit. So I'll talk about channel market fit in a second, but for product market fit, that question is basically, are you solving a real pain point for your users? Like, have you built something that people actually want? That's the question. We recently conducted a survey that was popularized by the Superhuman CEO on how Superhuman built a product market fit engine, or an engine to find product market fit. And one of the questions in that survey was, how disappointed would you be if you couldn't use Superhuman? So we obviously repurposed that into, how disappointed would you be if you couldn't use Vellum anymore? So we sent that out to all of our, and there was a few more questions, but we sent that out to all of our users. The benchmark for product market fit there is 40% of users should be very disappointed if they couldn't use your product. 50%, and then the other two options were somewhat disappointed and not disappointed. Our results were 40% very disappointed, 50% somewhat disappointed, and 10% not disappointed. Then the job of the survey is to understand how do you convert the somewhat disappointed into very disappointed, and then also figure out like what is it about the very disappointed people that makes them these power users, and how do you find more of those people. And for the not disappointed bucket, if it's small enough, maybe you can just ignore them and disqualify them in future conversations. So That's the process we followed. So 40% of users in our product market fit survey would have been very disappointed if they couldn't use Vellum. Channel market fit is a different question. Like, how do you acquire users repeatably at a low cost at scale? Um, that's also a forever journey, and we're working through various things there. I don't think we fully nailed that yet.
What was the frequency you're supposed to ask for feedback again? You said, is
Um,
this just like a once in a year thing,
we
or
did we've only done it once so far, a couple months ago, but I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to do this every quarter.
in continuation of that, like in terms of how you get feedback, do you wait for a complaint to come in, or are you still in touch constantly with your customers at all points?
We have shared Slack channels with all of our customers. We often proactively ask them questions in those Slack channels. And for our like strategic accounts, we end up scheduling like more frequent touch points with them, like
Mm.
synchronous calls.
Is there any worry in your head? I know I'm like changing the conversation completely now, but like being in like the forefront of enabling people to really leverage AI and get it to help the legacy models get better and better. Do you have any takes on the fear that of AI and where it's accelerating in the future? There's a lot of like debates on, the singularity that happens when AI becomes smarter than us, and if it's going to want to wipe out humankind and all these like dystopian topics. But I'm not sure if you explored any of that.
No, like sometimes when I think about that line of thinking, I'm just like, if models get so good that all work can happen, like all the work can happen with just a single prompt on a single model, and these models can do the work of companies with thousands of people, then world is going to look very different, and like many more, like the whole economy will just be so different that I can't even fathom the role that our company would play in a world like that. But until then, when people are still trying to use AI for their own business processes and are struggling with it, we will exist and provide value to them. It's kind of like a red herring topic to think about because there's so many unknowns there.
There is, yeah. And like that's the whole thing, right? Like how much it's like in politics. It's like if you're super informed, you only become this pessimistic soul that loves to talk about this thing and everybody thinks you're crazy. And you as an individual can't really do much to change it, but then it's like but and it's like this curse of intelligence or whatever not. But yeah. Um
Yeah, exactly.
as the person who's instructing and allowing a lot of companies to build and prompt their LLMs properly, what do you think goes into a good prompt yourself? How do you prompt your GPTs when you want something out of it?
Yeah, it's about giving very clear instructions, right? The analogy that I like to bring up here is think of it as talking to your new employee, and they're smart, hardworking, capable, good generalists, but they need a lot of context specific to your task or your domain at hand. Break down the instructions systematically, and definitely provide good context because context without context, getting the model to give you the right answer is not going to be easy. And then iterate. Definitely like try out different prompts side by side, compare across models, change some hyperparameters, and getting a prompt that works for your task at hand shouldn't be that difficult.
Do you think the US is going to stay on top of the whole AI race? Do you think there is an AI race?
There's definitely an AI race, and the US continues to dominate. Yeah. Um, DeepSeek had a moment, but we haven't seen that much else come out from the rest of the world so far, and the US continues to ship more and more.
Yeah.
And the amount of funding over here is wild.
What projects are you most excited about when it comes to this space?
I'm most excited about people using agents at a bigger scale. Right now, agents have just been still mostly been hypothetical, theoretical. But I want agents to start getting more and more autonomy and actually like letting them out in the wild and see what happens there because there's a lot of potential. But what I will say is that even though I'm excited about that, I'm also cautious because I don't want people to get distracted and only want to build agents just for the sake of building agents because there is still a lot of value to be had in more deterministic linear prompt pipelines, even though it may not sound as fun, but people can still make a lot of improvements to their day-to-day flows by just using a simpler version of an AI system, learn from that, get that into production, and then apply it to more advanced use cases. I think people get distracted too easily.
It's all about trying to integrate with everything and being able to pull data from this and that, right?
Exactly.
Am I kind of understanding that right? Yeah.
Exactly. Perform these tasks recursively, wait for human input when needed, manage memory. There's a lot to it.
And you said that creates too many inconsistencies and like not very quality of a result, and that's what's bothers
It's
you.
no, that's not what bothers me. I think what bothers me is people who are newer to this space getting distracted and thinking that that's what they want to build. It's totally possible. It creates a lot of value, but people should build easier use cases first before building the more advanced, flashy use cases.
Right. Okay. I can kind of understand that.
Yeah.
But
Again, the
awesome.
crawl, walk, run approach.
What'd you say?
The crawl, walk, run approach. Like start with something simpler, get into production, get the reps, and then move on to the more advanced use cases.
Right. I was gonna ask you about is it too late to build right now? You know, with like the acceleration of like everything that's going on, everyone's competing against each other. There's 7 different AI startups for one problem. How do you think you different? Or I think I asked this to you already, and it's about knowing the problem properly, right?
Yeah, it's I mean for us, we were now 2.5 years into the journey. It's like definitely not late for us,
Mm.
but for a new company, absolutely not. Like there's so much I'm sure there's so much opportunity because people have been doing like white collar work now for 50 plus years, and there's been no major innovation in how they do their work. They've just gotten better tools like computers, internet, and all that good stuff, but there's been no major disruption in how work is actually done, and AI is going to bring that disruption to how economies function. So we like if we had to draw a straight line between where we are today to that end state of one prompt on one model can do everything, there's a lot of room to grow and room to build over here because people would need to use AI for their own bespoke business processes, and it's never too late to build. You just need to understand what domain to apply this technology to.
Mm. That's why I think like sometimes I think about like the when people talk about the AI race and the gold rush, you can think about it, right? Like the gold that everyone's trying to get at is like building an AI tool that's going to become a big unicorn. And for me, I feel like the shovels in this case, I think some people think about the shovels being like compliance issues or compliance databases, electricity, energy, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't help but think that maybe agencies might be somewhere in there next, like people who can actually apply and like connect all this noise of value that AI startups really bring to one company and then just completely bringing them this new workflow, like you said, because of how ancient some of these systems are.
Yeah, agencies play a big role in this transformation. I believe Accenture has booked hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of revenue with just AI services. And I'm guessing many other software agencies have also done the same because a big problem we see with enterprises and more legacy businesses is that they don't have the education, like they don't know how to best use this technology for their own tasks at hand. And agencies can help bridge the gap of providing this one-to-one personalized education for each user inside an enterprise. So they absolutely have an important role to play in the upcoming transformation.
Do you think like creativity is becoming this big thing that everyone's focusing on now? Would you agree?
People have always focused on creativity. I think
Great.
the emphasis on creativity will probably be a lot more when we get to that singularity moment because there'll be not much else for people to do. But
Mm.
creativity keeps people sane, creativity gives people joy, and creativity helps you write better prompts. Creativity helps you stand out on LinkedIn, social media. Creativity is fun, man. So people always have focused on creativity.
I guess why I asked that was like, were you pessimistic about some job roles over others?
Some job roles, in what context?
Like everyone loves talking about how like the programmer is now extinct with the cursor and Devin, and everyone loves talking about like it's the end of the program of programmers. And it's now the age of marketers. Like this goes back to kind of how we introduce the idea of like the distribution and marketing
Mhm.
versus like building a real product that works, right? So I'm not sure if you've thought about like what will be replaced and what won't be replaced because I know some people also debate that topic and have different ideas of what will be in the future and what won't.
Yeah, I don't believe engineering or coding is dead, right? Because the tools of today make existing engineers a lot more productive, and you still need engineers to design complex systems, design and maintain complex systems. AI tools can just help them move a lot faster, much faster than they were able to move before. I Apart from maybe customer support, that's also a big maybe. I haven't seen that many jobs affected or replaced with AI just yet. But who is like what is that to that doesn't mean anything. Like that could always change in the future, and I'm sure people will find new work, just like across all of our industrial revolutions in the past. Like new things have come up when old jobs have become obsolete.
Yeah. Would you categorize yourself or would you describe yourself being more of a short-term thinker or like a long-term thinker?
My long-term thinking doesn't go beyond like I we haven't obviously have an idea of where we're headed, but tactically in terms of what we do, that doesn't go beyond a year, because the next year seems like very clear on what we need to execute on. But most of it is making sure the short term is running fine.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know some people like staying in the clouds and thinking all the time about like the long term, right? On a day-to-day basis. And it's like you lose sight of what's going on in front of you and you over predict or over index on that.
Yeah, you
So
have to make the future happen by making tomorrow happen, like every
right.
day.
I mean, how is your workflow? Are you very precise about like having a routine right now, or is it more of like a freehand type of deal? Or like do you plan everything out at the beginning of the week, or do you do everything on the go?
No, or routine as much as possible is necessary. Otherwise, the weekends are becoming unproductive. So obviously, I have a day-to-day, like a daily routine on what keeps me sane, and the stuff I need to do before and after work. And during the work week, there's between two and four like key things that I need to get done every week. And as long as those get done, everything else may or may not happen, and that's totally fine.
And
So
then what's like the one thing that you like really takes the edge off for you? Like I know everyone has like something to relax with.
Waking up early and then going for a run or going to the gym. Like
Going to
just
the gym, going for a run,
starting the
yeah.
day early, 6 a.m. is great.
So but you haven't explored like meditation or anything because I know that's really popular.
On and off. Meditation definitely helps, but I haven't been consistent with it. So I think I need to do it for like 3 months to start seeing the gains.
I love that. Well, we have a closing tradition on the podcast where I want you to give one piece of advice for all the startups that are working in the generative AI space and how you would advise them to be successful in today's world.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, the main piece of advice I have is talk to your users, understand their problems, also understand where they spend their time, because understanding what they do and where they spend their time is the best way of finding more users like that.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Akash. That was a lot of fun. I think I got to know you a little bit better.
Cool. Thank you, Magnus. Thank you for taking the time.